everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Those of you who are listening to me on my podcast, Nonprofit Nuggets with Jennifer Yarbrough, and those of you who are joining me here on YouTube, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Jennifer. I am your nonprofit expert, over 37 years of experience helping organizations put together plans and strategies, systems and tools so that you have an organization that is not only doing impactful work, but you also have an organization that is thriving, serving your community well, and creating great results, okay? Great results. For those of you guys who have been following me for a while, I want to say thank you. For those of you here on YouTube and on the podcast, please hit like and follow. Share if there is something that I say that is that resonates with you. All right. Today, I want to share with you a little bit of my story, a little bit of my journey in terms of how I got into the nonprofit space. A lot of people just assume I woke up as the nonprofit expert. No, in fact, I went through a journey. Okay. And my journey began when I was in graduate school. For those of you, again, who have not been following me for a while, I graduated from Tuskegee. I had a degree in political science, and I was on my way to Howard to go to law school. And I went through Tennessee. I was there actually to stay with a friend of mine, and I decided to get into graduate school. I got into graduate school, and I was studying sociology. Okay, because I really thought that that was going to help me with my law practice when I started, right? So I started studying sociology. And one of the class assignments within that department was for me to write a grant. And so my very first introduction to the grant process was through that class assignment. That was the semester assignment. The professor walked in and he said, for the semester, you are going to write a grant. And I'm looking at him like, what is a grant? Now, mind you, I was a child. I was right out of college. I was a young person. I didn't have a lot of life experience, and I had no idea what a grant was, right? I had no nonprofit. I had no understanding of what the concepts of this, paper outline looked like. I'm like, what is a goal? What is an objective? I don't understand what that meant. So I was doing an internship at the Kingsport Housing Authority in Kingsport, Tennessee. And I went to Mr. Spann, who at the time was the executive director. And I said, Mr. Spann, I have to write a grant. I don't know what a grant was. I don't know what a grant is. What is that? He then sends me to a workshop at the library. And I walked into this workshop, a grant writing workshop, and I had no idea of the concepts. All right. For those of you all who are listening, for those of you who have an opportunity to get to your keyboard, I want you guys to just understand the word concepts. Okay. I did not have a concept. I did not have any experience. I did not have a way to connect the terms, goals, objectives, outcome or impact. I didn't understand need statement or program design. Why? I didn't have a nonprofit. I didn't have a program. I'm just doing this as a class assignment. All of these concepts did not make sense to me, right? I didn't have a point of connection, a point of reference to my own personal experience. I left that workshop frustrated because I felt like I can't do something that I don't understand. I have to write this grant, but I don't know what the concepts are. I don't know how to do it. I was frustrated. Do you hear what I said? I was frustrated. I was ready to get a D. I knew I couldn't flunk the test. I was going to do something, honey. I was ready to accept less than just because I didn't understand, right? I was like, give me this D and get me out of this class, honey, and that will be fine. We'll be good, okay? I went back to Mr. Spann and I said, Mr. Spann, I don't understand. They're in this workshop talking about program, talking about budget, talking about goals and objectives, and I had no idea what they were referring to. Okay? Mr. Span gave me a real grant to write. It was a HUD grant. It was an alcohol and elimination grant. Now, at the time that he handed it to me, this was 30 some odd years ago, y'all. This was when the RFP came in print. Now you can download them, right? But it actually came in print. That thing had to be 200 pages long. It took me 6 weeks to get through it. It took me 6 weeks to get through it, to write it, to understand. I was underlining, I was highlighting words. I was really having to learn what the terms, what the terminology, what the meaning behind some of these words were within the RFP. What's an RFP? A request for proposal. I wrote the grant. It took me 6 weeks. I wrote the grant and I submitted it, gave it to my professor. Mr. Span told me to take it down to Nashville and turn it into the HUD office. I drove down to Nashville. Now I'm from Southern California, so I'm stepping outside like, which way is Nashville? I don't even know which way Nashville is. I drove it to Nashville. I turned it in to the HUD office. I literally had like 2 minutes to spare before the submission deadline. Long story short, the grant was funded for $250,000. The grant was funded for $250,000. I got an A in the class. I got an A in the class. I was the only one in the class that wrote a real grant. Everyone else made theirs up. I didn't know enough to make mine up, right? My mind doesn't think that way anymore. I'm not a very creative person, but I didn't know enough to make it up. Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because many of you have started your nonprofit organizations not understanding the concepts. You started your nonprofit organizations and you have accepted less than what it is that you could have just because you don't understand the concepts. I don't know what impact is. I don't know what goals are. I don't know what a budget is. And you all have continued on this course accepting less than what you could have because you don't understand the concepts, right? I went through that. I understand it. I definitely understand the frustration of not knowing, the frustration of, I want to know so bad, but how do I learn? How do I get the understanding so that I can be successful in this assignment? Now, I wasn't the executive director of a nonprofit. I wasn't the president. I didn't have a staff. I didn't have a team. I didn't have a program. I was just trying to get out of this class, right? But for many of you that have started your nonprofit organizations without understanding the concept of, one, what is a nonprofit? What is a nonprofit? A nonprofit is a business. There are two categories of business: for-profit, not-for-profit, right? There are two categories of business. You are operating, running a business. The only distinction between those two businesses is what? Profit. That's the only distinction. The only distinction is profit. Now, what is profit? Profit is over and above expenses. That's profit. Over and above operating is profit. If many of you don't understand the concept of what you are running, what you are leading a business, right? Every business has a product. Every business has a product. What is your product? Your product is your result. Your value is your result. What your donors, what your funders, what your contributors, what those sponsors, right? What is it that they get as return on their investment? Result, right? And if you don't understand the concept of result, you will be frustrated because you don't have any donors. Well, Jen, I can't find any donors. Jen, how do I find donors? Jen, I don't know how to find donors. Jen, how do I get a grant? I don't know how to get a grant, Jen. Jen, I don't have any funding. Why don't I have any funding? Because you're not sharing your product. You're talking about your passion, you're talking about your activities, you're talking about why you started, but you're not giving the value of your business. Every business has a product. I want y'all to hear me now. Every business has a product. The product is desired and consumed by the people outside the business, right? The customer comes into the business because they want the product. I'm going to say that again, real slow. The customer outside the business comes into the business because they want the product. Now, how does that concept link to our type of business? We're not in the business for profit, Jen. We're not in the business for profit. What's our product? The concept of product is, in the nonprofit space, our value, our product is result. Need met, mission accomplished. That's our product. That's our value, right? Our mission identifies, clarifies the need that we are addressing. Our business is need addressment. Our business is solving problem. Our business is result. That's what we do. We change lives, we transform, we improve. That is our business, right? Result, not passion. I want y'all to get passionate about result. Did you hear what I said? I want you to get passionate about producing a good result, a good product. A good product means that your organization, through your program, is producing a valuable result. That is what the donor, the funder, the contributor, the sponsor, that's what they're interested in our business. They're not interested in our passion. They're not interested in the activities that we do. No, they're interested in the result that we provide. All right? Concept of business, concept of product, concept of value and our customer. You understand what I'm saying? I just want you to understand the concept, because when I did not understand this concept, honey, I was lost and frustrated. I was sitting up at night thinking, Lord, I'm about to flunk this class, sure enough. I am going to flunk this class. How am I going to explain this to my mother? Many of you right now are staying up all night because you're trying to figure out, how am I going to make this nonprofit business work? What am I going to do? What do I have to do to make sure that this nonprofit, it continues to be able to operate? You've got to learn the concepts. You've got to understand what it is. You got to learn how to connect the dots. That's what I'm here for. For those of you guys who are listening to my podcast, thank y'all for listening. I want you guys to go ahead and like and follow. For those of you guys who are over here on the YouTube, thank you guys for following. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and leave a comment. It really goes a long way. I want to thank each and every one of you. Those of you that have gotten my nonprofit startup guide, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you guys got the guide, you also already have received an invitation throughout the month of June. I'm going to be offering Q&As for those of you who have the nonprofit startup guide. That is going to be my thank you to you. And on top of that, those of you who have the guide, I am going to be adding you all to my email list where I send out grant alerts. My team looks for grants every single week, and we send out 2 or 3 grant announcements to your inbox so that you guys can get the research done for you. All right. So we're sending you those grant alerts, and in July, I'm going to be doing a free grant writing challenge, a 5-day grant writing challenge for those of you who have the nonprofit startup guide. All right. So I want to say thank you for those of you that have invested in your knowledge. I want to give you all a lot of great bonuses and added benefit. You already know that when you get the guide, you get a 2-hour Nonprofit Startup Clinic. It's a replay video that I did, and it is amazing. That's really going to help you understand more of the concepts of your business. All right. My job is to ensure that you have the clarity, the knowledge, the understanding of how to not just start your nonprofit, honey. We want to learn how to run it, huh? We want to learn how to run it. We want to learn how to fund it. We want to learn how to lead it. We want to learn how to make your organization be a pillar of help and a guiding light to result in your community, right? That's what I'm here for. So when I started introducing the guide, it's only been now a little over a month. We've had such an amazing response. Everyone who has the guide has said, Jennifer, I did not realize that I needed to know as much as this guide let me know. Everything that you need to know about the nonprofit startup space or the running of your organization is in one place. It's a one-stop shop, all right? For those of you who would like to get the guide, all you have to do is go to bit.ly/nonprofit startup guide, and you can get the guide. All right. Those of you who are following me on my podcast, again, that is bit.ly/nonprofit startup guide. All right. For those of you that may listen to this on the TikTok, you can go to my profile. It is in my link tree. Okay. So you get a 2-hour nonprofit startup clinic. You also get invited to some Q&As with me here in the month of June, and you get added to my email list where my team is doing grant research, and we're sending out to you grant alerts every week, sometimes 2-3 times a week. You get those grant alerts sent to your inbox, and you guys are going to be invited to a 5-day grant writing training with me as well. All right. That's going to be in July. So all of those are the benefits. And why am I sharing this with you now? It is because you have to understand the concepts. The Nonprofit Startup Guide really goes through every single concept that you need to understand as the executive director, as the president of your business. All right. So let's get back to concepts. When I wrote the grant for HUD, all right? Again, I was the only one in the class that wrote a real grant. My peers, the other students in the class, they made it up. They did not learn what it really takes to write a grant. Why? They made it up. They made it up. Why and how does that apply to you? Many of you started your nonprofit organizations not knowing how to run it, not knowing your job and your role as the president. You're making it up. Not knowing the role of the board. You put your mother, your brother, your dog, your cat, your fish, not knowing what that position, what those positions are for. Many of you wrote a mission statement, but you're not even sure what is the mission statement for. And so you're running your organization, making it up as you go. Did you hear what I said? You are running your organizations without a plan, without a strategy, without any way to determine, am I doing this right? Is this the right way? Now, what's the right way? What's the right way? Let's just be able to, I don't want to say stuff and you don't understand the concept of what I'm saying, right? I want to be able to explain it. Can I take my time? Do y'all mind if I take my time? This is what I mean. Your organizations are in place to meet a need, right? Your mission speaks to the audience that you're serving, the purpose of your organization, and the impact that you're going to make, right? Impact within itself implies that there's a need that you are addressing, that there is a result. Impact is result, right? The concept of impact is result. It's not just the word impact. We have great impact, Jen. Our organization is having great impact. Well, tell me what the impact is. If it's having great impact, tell me what the impact is. The result is real. The result can be evaluated. The result can be proven, right? So if your organization is having great impact, then share the impact. Share the result, not the activity. Many of you don't understand the concept between activity and impact. Activity is not impact, right? Activity is, Jen, I want to open up a transitional home. Jen, I want to feed the homeless. Jen, I want to pass out hygiene kits. Jen, I want to help. Jen, I want to help single moms, right? Jen, I want to mentor. Jen, I want to do all these activities. But your business is not to do activities. Your business is to get results, right? So what are the results of these activities? That's what your product is, not the activities. But many of you not understanding the concept of, one, nonprofit is a business. There are two categories of business: for-profit, not-for-profit, right? You've got to understand the concept of business. What's a business, Jen? A business provides value. A business has a product, right? A business needs its community to support it. That's a business. A business cannot operate where the person who started the business is funding the business all by themselves. Many of you started your nonprofit business and you're funding it by yourself. Why? Because you don't understand business. You didn't know it was a business. You thought, well, Jen, it's a nonprofit. No, I don't have a budget. Jen, it's a nonprofit. No, I don't have a budget, Jen. You didn't understand the concept of what is a not-for-profit. It's a business, right? When you decide, I'm going to start another business, I'm going to start an LLC, I'm going to start a C Corp, I'm going to start an S Corp, whatever. You don't say that's what you're going to start. You say, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start a small business, right? And automatically you assume that you're going to start a for-profit business. But when you give the distinction, I am going to start a not-for-profit, I'm going to start a nonprofit business. I wish y'all could hear me. Put business in the chat. Put business in the comments over here on my YouTube family. Business. For-profit, not-for-profit. Two categories of business. Two categories of business. Both businesses, both business models has to have a product, something that's valuable to the people who are not in the business, right? In the for-profit business, they have a sandwich, they have electronics, they have coffee, they have whatever it is that they are selling as their product that's valuable to the customer. The customer comes into the business, the customer invests in that product because what? The customer wants that product, right? Do y'all understand that concept of business? That you are not a business to yourself. Now, in the for-profit business, what do they do with the profit? They take the profit and they disperse the profit between their partners and their shareholders. Now, what is profit? Profit is over and above what it costs to operate. That's profit. Over and above what it costs to operate is profit, right? So in the for-profit business, they are in the business for the profit. What is profit, Jen? Over and above what it costs to operate is profit. In the not-for-profit, we're not in it for the profit. What do we do with our funds? What do we do with our profit? In the for-profit, what do? They take the profit, they distribute it between shareholders and partners. That's what they do with the profit, right? In the not-for-profit, what do we do with our revenue? We put it back into achieving the mission. We put it back into investing in to expand our program. But that's operating as well, right? So both business models, you have to operate. You have to have accounting. You have to have marketing. You have to have ways to generate revenue. To operate, you got to have money to operate, right? You've got to be able to continue to create and establish the product. That's operations. Your program is not your product. I need y'all to understand the concepts, because many of you are struggling and making it up as you go because you don't understand the concepts. You don't understand the concept of the business, right? So what is your product? Your product is the result of that program. What is a program, Jen? A program is a group of activities that are strategically designed to produce a result. What's a program, Jen? A program is a group of activities that are intentionally designed to produce a result. It is not the activities that you want to do. It is the activities that produce a result. That is what our funders fund. That is what our donors are interested in. The result of what we do. Mission accomplished, problem solved, impact, result, not activity. And many of you started your nonprofit because you were driven by your desire for the activity. Jen, I want to feed homeless. Jen, I want to help young people. Jen, I want to help single moms. Jen, I want to do all these activities. But the funder is thinking, what am I investing in? What's the return on my investment? In the for-profit, the customer comes in, they get the product, they pay for the product, and they walk away with the product, right? They walk away with the cup of coffee, they walk away with the sandwich, they walk away with the computer, right? They've invested in it, and they get the product, right? In the not-for-profit space, they get the result. They get to know that their support, that their investment produced a result that they are interested in. They are interested in ensuring that those that are housing insecure have affordable housing. That's what they're interested in. So they're supporting your work because that's the result that they want. That's the mission accomplished. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? They're not impressed by the activities that you do. They need to understand what is the result of those activities. And many of you did not start your nonprofit for the result. You started it because of passion. Now, if you started it for result, right, then you can articulate result. Talk about result. That's what your donors want to hear, the result. They want to know, what did I invest in? Tell me what the result is. Tell me how many people you serve. Tell me how and through and after their program is finished, where are they now? Did you really meet the need? Tell them about the result. Listen, some of y'all are getting caught up with these people talking about, let me stay. Y'all who follow me, y'all understand. I get all beside myself, right? Thank you guys for following. Thank you guys for liking. For those of you who are on YouTube, please like and subscribe and share. For those of you all who are listening to my podcast on Spotify, thank you all for listening. Please like. I appreciate your support in that matter. Listen, as the president of your business, many of you don't understand that concept either. Many of you think that you are the president of a program. Many of you started your nonprofit because of the activities that you wanted to do. My program, Jen, my program, right? And because you started your nonprofit, because you are invested in your program activities, You started your nonprofit because your heart, your passion, your commitment was to the program. And as a result, you didn't set up the business. Every dollar that comes in goes to that program. Every dollar. Jen, the whole dollar goes to program. Everything we do, Jen, goes to program. Jen, everybody's a volunteer because everything has got to go to the program because that's your passion. That program is an expense. As a business, put business in the chat. As a business, you as the president of the business, the CEO, the executive director, whatever you call yourself, you've got to understand what is expense and what is revenue. Where does money come from? Jen, I can't start until I get a grant. Jen, I need a grant. I need a grant, Jen. I can't start my business until I get a grant. Jen, I was told that if I start my nonprofit, I could get a grant. Can I get a grant, Jen? I need a startup grant, Jen. You know, we got this nonprofit started up, Jen, but I can't start until I get a grant. My question to you is this, in terms of concept, they give you a grant to start. You spend that money. Where is money coming from after that? After you done spent that startup grant, honey, where's money coming from? If there's money that's coming from anywhere else outside the grant, well, then why can't you go in and get that money while you waiting on that grant? Because that grant may take 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 9 months more to come. Does that mean that we cannot operate our business until we get a grant? Y'all, where is money going to come from after that grant has been spent? Where's money coming from? Many of you don't understand the concept of revenue, right? Well, Jen, I'm a nonprofit. Of course I don't have any money. Jen, I'm a nonprofit. I'm paying for everything out of my pocket. Jen, I'm a nonprofit. I have no idea. That is why you need my guide. If you have a business with no plan to bring in revenue, how is it that you have a plan for a business to be able to sustain itself? If you start the business with no knowledge of the business, you're frustrated like I was when they were telling me write a grant, but I don't know what a grant is. You want that building, right? Jen, I need a building. I need a building, Jen. That ain't nothing but a big old expense. Because now you got a building, you got materials, you got furniture, you got utilities, you got insurance, you got repairs. Now you ain't got nothing but a big old predictable expense. Put predictable expense. You got a building. Now you got predictable expense. So where does predictable revenue come from to cover those expenses? You're starting a business. Any business, every business has expenses, predictable expenses. That means you have to have what? Predictable revenue. The concept of revenue for many of you is foreign because you think I'm begging, right? Jen, I don't like fundraising. I don't like talking to people, Jen. I feel like I'm begging. I'm begging. You don't understand the concept of your business. You don't understand the concept of the value of your product. You don't understand that your business is an asset to your community. You solve problems. You meet needs. That's your business. Your business is improving the community. Your business as a community-based business is to address the needs, the niche that you have within your mission is important. But because you don't understand the concept of a nonprofit, you think it's a charity, you think it's all about begging, you think it's about, I'm not supposed to have anything, and, all I do is beg. I'm a professional beggar. No, we give. We give results. We give solution. We give. We give change. We give improvement to our communities. We're assets, not a deficit. But many of you who don't understand the concept of your business, you assume, well, Jen, I don't like it. I don't like talking about my nonprofit, Jen. I'm not comfortable talking about my nonprofit business, Jen. I just feel like I'm begging all the time. I just feel like I'm constantly begging. That's because you're talking about money and not value. That right there is gonna preach, y'all. You are talking about money, honey. You are not talking about value. You're not talking about what your program is saving the community when you come and meet the need in the community. You're not talking about that. That's because you don't understand the concept of your business. You don't even know what it is. We're not begging for money. We're telling people what it costs. What it costs to get this result. What it costs to serve 300 or 400 people. What it costs to make an impact in the community. We're not begging. We're letting people know what it costs. Now, what does it cost? Let's talk about that concept. Out of every dollar that comes into your nonprofit organization, you all put the whole dollar in the program. That means what? There's no money for the business, to operate the business. What is involved to operate the business? That's where your marketing is. That's where your website is. That's where your accounting is, right? That's where your office supplies. That's where your phones. That's where your Zoom. That's where your whatever it is that you need. That's where your legal is. That's where all the things that need to be happening to operate. You are a business. You have a business bank account, right? You have a business bank account. But many of you don't understand the concept of business. You went into business thinking it was your passion. Now, somebody out here told you, start a business based on your passion. Passion is not going to raise you any money. Passion is not going to sustain this organization, honey. You got to have some knowledge. You need to know the business. You need to know your niche. You need to understand what your product is, and you need to know how to market your product. You need to know what is it that would attract your ideal customer, i.e. donor, funder, contributor, to want to align, invest in your business. You got to know the business. How do we know this is true? How do we know this is true? Because if starting your nonprofit started with getting a piece of paper, Jen, I got my nonprofit, Jen. I went down there and I filed got my 1023. I got my piece of paper, Jen, and I got everything, Jen. I got everything. I got my website. I got my website being made. But we don't have no way to drive people to that website. I'm gonna say that again. I got a whole website made, but I have no way to drive people to that website. Jen, I got my website. I got my business account. We got a t-shirt made. I got my board members. I got my mother, my brother, my dog, my cat, my fish. And now I'm stuck. Passion ran out. Passion wasn't enough to take it past I'm stuck. Why are you stuck? You started with passion. Roll on with passion, honey. What? You started with passion. Passion ain't enough. Can we agree? Passion is not enough. You got to have some knowledge. You are the president of a business. Your job as the president is to know the business. Who gets the job of president and doesn't know the business? Y'all done wrote down there on that 1023 form that you the president, and some of y'all have the nerve to want to be the president of the board and the president of the organization. The concept of the president being the visionary and making the organization's plan and strategy for sustainability. That's the role of the president. The role of the president is not just to be able to function in the now, but to be able to plan for the future. That's the job of the president, is to be able to plan, to set the path, the roadmap of how to grow the business. But see, some of y'all started this nonprofit thinking that you were the president of the program. The program is an expense. The program doesn't generate revenue. The business does. But you didn't set up the business, right? You all who follow me, you guys hear me say this all the time. Jen, I don't have any money. I don't have any money, Jen. I need money, Jen. I need a grant. Jen, I need fundraising. Jen, how do I find donors? Jen, I need donors. Who are donors? Who are donors? How do we find donors? How do we introduce ourselves to donors? What do we say? What do we say to the donor or the prospective donor? What is it about what we do would interest them to invest their money into what we do? Y'all got to understand the concept. You don't understand the concept. Money is not your problem. Lack of knowledge is your problem. Jen, I don't know how to fundraise. Jen, I don't even know what fundraising is. Other than events, I mean, I know what events are, Jen. I know what fundraisers are. So yeah, Jen, we got fundraisers. We have fundraisers, Jen. We do fundraisers. How often do you do fundraisers? We do fundraisers, like 3-4 times a year. That means you only are bringing in money 3 or 4 times a year into this business. What business do you know that only can bring in money 3 or 4 times a year? None. You have to know the business. Where are you all learning the business? Or are you comfortable winging it, faking it? That's fine. I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm just letting you know that out of 100 nonprofits, 87 are struggling, and not because of money. It's because the leader, the president, the founder doesn't know the business. They don't have a plan to sustain the business. They don't know or have not made it a priority to fund the business. They're more led by passion. They want everybody to be passionate. They want everybody to be passionate. They'll pay for everything out of their pocket. That organization, as soon as something happens to that person, the organization stops. So that person gets sick, something happens, that organization is done. That business is done. Why? Because the founder did not set up a plan, does not know how to raise money, didn't make it a priority. Right? Is only interested in the program. And as a result, that business is not sustainable. Now, why is that important? Because now more than ever, your donors, your funders, your supporters are looking at your financials. They're going to search your 990s. They're looking to see, is this a viable business for me to invest in? Now, I'm using the word of business because I want you to understand the concept that your donors, your funders, your supporters, your contributors, they're investing in your ability to achieve result. Right? You, as the leader of your business, you have to understand not just what you need, right? You need money, you need a building, you need. But you also have to understand how to give back to the donor and the funder what they need, right? Somebody will go around and say, you need to find people with money. Find people with money. Everybody got money. Who are they? We talking about the Oprahs. We talking about the people who got a lot of money. Let me say this. You are a community-based business. You are a community-based business. You have to know your community. Any business has to know their community, right? You have to know where supporters are. Who are they? What is it that would cause them to support? What is their history of giving? That's like a market analysis, right? In the business world, that's like a market analysis in terms of concept. But many of you have started your nonprofit businesses without understanding your product matched up with others who also have a product. You have other nonprofits in your community. You have other organizations and agencies within your community that's touching the very same people that you're touching. So you've got to know your community. You've got to know who is serving these, who is providing services to this particular audience. What is the gap in service? What is your niche? Who funds these organizations? Many of you just start your nonprofit because you thought, if I have my piece of paper, Jen, I can get a grant. Somebody told me that if I start a nonprofit, I could get a grant. Somebody told me, Jen, I should start a nonprofit that I could get donations, but they did not tell you, where does that come from? How do you introduce? How do you attract those people to want to be interested in what you do? What is networking? These are concepts that if you knew the workings of those concepts, you could be able to do it. But you don't know the concepts. This is why I created the Nonprofit Startup Guide. It is 52 pages where everything you need to know about the nonprofit is in this guide. Everything from what is a nonprofit? For many of you, you don't even know what it is. You didn't even know it was a business. I talked to you. All right. You get on my phone. Don't get on my phone. Don't get on my phone. Don't get in my inbox. Don't get on my calendar. I'm telling you right now, don't do that. This is what happened. Jen, I didn't know. I didn't know it was a business. Jen, I didn't know I could have money. I didn't know I could raise money. Jen, I could get a salary. I didn't know I could get a salary, Jen. Jen, how much salary can I get? Jen, I have a bank account. I can tell you how much we spent. You are a business that has to have revenue. That has to have money coming in order to operate. Well, Jen, of course I'm a nonprofit. I don't have a budget. Well, no, Jen, we just spend the money as we need it. Just as we need the money, Jen, we spend it. What business can do that? None. Many of you are operating without knowing the concept. And that's what's keeping you up all night. That's why you stressed out. That's why you are depressed. That's why you frustrated. That's why you blaming everybody under the sun. You blaming your board. You're blaming that, the donors are taking too long. How come I can't get a grant? Jen, I need a grant. How long, Jen? When they write this grant, when are they going to let us know? How long before they let us know, Jen? Are they going to let us know right away? When are they going to make a decision? I'm thinking, I don't know. But you got at least 7 other streams of revenue. Why are you waiting on this grant? Why are you waiting on this grant? And while you're waiting, let's do that way. Let's be positive. While you're waiting, while you're waiting on that grant decision to be made. Now, let's be clear that not everybody's going to get that grant, right? There are more people that are applying for those grant dollars than there are grant dollars or grant funders. All right. There are more people applying for those grant dollars. So that grant funder is likely only going to give away maybe 20, possibly 15. They're going to receive hundreds, if not thousands of proposals. So what does that mean? That means you got to be cranking out proposals, honey. You should be writing a proposal every week. Every week, you should be putting out one. While you're waiting, you should be focused on the other 7 streams of revenue. Well, Jen, what's my guarantee? Y'all kill me with that one. What's my guarantee, Jen? What's my guarantee? What's my guarantee? I'm thinking to myself, you did not even have a guarantee when you started a business you had no knowledge of. You didn't have a guarantee. You did not have a guarantee when you went down there and filled out that 1023 form. You did not have a guarantee when you put your mother, your brother, your dog, your cat, your fish on that piece of paper. Now you want a guarantee. Why? Because you don't have any money. My thing is, the way to guarantee having funding for your nonprofit is knowing how to fundraise, knowing where money comes from. That's your guarantee. That's your guarantee. Knowing the business, knowing how to pivot and navigate. Well, Jen, after COVID, we lost all of our funding. And I'm thinking, that was 5 years ago. Why don't you have any money now? What happened to your plan? You're the president. You are the guarantee. You're the president. Guarantee the president should know how to run the business. You are the guarantee. Your ability to articulate your product, the results that you do, that's the guarantee. Your ability to put together a budget that talks about not just the expenses of what you have, but what are your plans for revenue to sustain the business. You are the guarantee. Number 3, building a team of people, including your board, other volunteers, and stakeholders who understand the importance of this work that you've built relationship with. You're the guarantee. your vision that's plain for the organization. You are the guarantee. A grant is money that's going to be spent, probably already spent. You got the grant, you spent the grant money, now we broke again. Let me tell you guys a little story. So when I got out of school, right, I wrote grants for 8 years. I was a grant writer for 8 years. That was my job, y'all. It was my job. I wrote grants. I wrote federal grants. That's all I did, full time, for 8 years. I got bored writing grants. And so I asked the organization to give me something else to do. And they put me over in development. What's development? Development is the area where you raise money, right? So that's where you do donor acquisition, donor cultivation, donor stewardship, donor communication. That was my job. Then I became a major gifts officer. Then I became the director of development, right? And one of the things that I learned was everything that I knew about the program, I needed to know to raise money in the other streams of revenue. Grants is one stream of revenue, but in the whole budget realm, grants are probably only going to be about 30% of your entire budget. About 30%. A grant is never going to fund 100%. It can't. It's impossible for a grant funder to fund 100% of anybody's budget. It's impossible. There are more organizations seeking grant dollars than there are giving grant dollars. It is impossible for a grant funder to fund you 100%. Most of their funding is designated program. Why? Because that's where they get the return on their investment. They get the return on their investment in the program money, right? So for those of you that say, well, Jen, I need non-designated dollars. Jen, I need operating dollars. I need operating dollars, Jen. Where does operating dollars come from? Those other 7 streams of revenue. Let's say that the grant funder gave you some operating dollars. They're not going to pay your salary. They're not going to buy a building. They're not going to pay that rent on that building for a whole year. They're not going to give you money to operate. And let me tell you why that's a good thing, right? Because now you set up. They invest in you $200,000. You done spent that $200,000. Now, how are you going to replace that $200,000 to begin to continue to operate next year? Where's that money coming from? If you know where that money is coming from, because that money don't run out, then why we got to wait for the grant? Because you're going to spend that money. But how are you going to replace the money? Y'all, that's business. That's business. That if I have this expense, I got to cover it with this revenue. But because you all thought the nonprofit was free, everything's free. It's not free. There's a cost to do the work. There's a cost. Jen, I want everything to be free. I want everything to be free, Jen. I want it to be free, 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 free. I want everybody to be a volunteer. I want everything to be free, Jen. I want to give it all away. It's not free. Those materials cost, that equipment cost. It's not free. And that's okay. Can we say it's okay? Can you say, my business is not free? My business has some expenses. And because every business has expenses, it's okay if my business has revenue to cover those expenses. Jen, I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the money. We ain't talking about money. We're talking about expenses and what it costs to do the work to produce this product. That's what we're talking about. In the for-profit business, they're talking about business. They're talking about the money. But you've got to know, where does money come from? So I now am a fundraiser, right? What's a fundraiser, Jen? A fundraiser is a person who knows where money comes from. That's a fundraiser. They know where funds come from. They know the system, the strategies, the tools to raise money, funds. They know not just the streams of revenue, but they know the types of people that align with those streams, right? Each stream has a group or an audience or a particular population of people that I got to know. I got to know who are the businesses. I got to know who are those that would give in kind. I got to know who are those that would be sponsors or supporters. I got to know who would be the individual donors. I got to know those populations that generate the streams of revenue. Y'all got to know the concepts, and you have to know how to work those concepts. You know you got to raise money. Well, then raise money. If that was all you needed to know was you got to raise money, well, then raise the money. No, you have to know more than I need to raise money. You know that you need to raise money. Going into it, you know you need to raise money, right? Which is why you want that grant, which is why you do those fundraisers. Why? Because I need money. Can we agree that you need money? Can we understand that you need money? So what's stopping you from getting the money? You know you need money. Go get the money. Can we accept? I don't know how. I don't know how, Jen. Some of y'all ain't got there yet. Some of you all have not skipped over the, I know what I need to do, but I got to accept I don't know how to do it. Y'all ain't there yet. Y'all not there yet. And the truth is this: if Google Nation and YouTube University could have told you how, why haven't it? Because I know y'all wearing it out. Y'all are wearing Uncle Google out. Y'all are wearing it out. How do I find grants? How do I find donors? How do I find major donors? What do I say in my sponsorship package? All the things, right? You are wearing Uncle Google out, honey. And Uncle Google is giving you link and link and link and link and link. And you still got to know the concept of that link that it gave you. It gave you a link, but if you don't understand the concept, you still can't do what that link told you to do. Now, whose fault is that? The links? Is it the link's fault? Listen, when I started raising money, and I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars, it was my job at one time to raise $12 million a year. $12 million a year. That was my job. And these organizations that I work for were not mine. These were not my nonprofits. It was my job. You understand? It was my job. I wish more of you understood the concept of job. You all are operating on the concept of passion, which is kind of come and go, right? Some days you feel inspired, some days you don't. And I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm just pointing out the truth. Okay. um, some of you that want to get paid in the nonprofit means Nobody gets paid if they don't know the job. Who do you know that gets a job that they don't know how to do and can keep the job and keep getting paid for a job they don't know how to do? Right? When I started raising money, what I learned in raising money is starts with communication. It starts with introduction and building trust. So someone may say, find somebody with a lot of money. You got to know how to find people with money. You have to learn how to build trust with people. Because nobody is giving you their money if they don't trust you with their money. You understand? So how do you build trust? Transparency. Talking about the impact of the work, talking about what it costs to do the work, talking about how many people you're going to serve and why that's important, talking about why they should consider your organization, talking about why and what the result is, talking about what is going to be their return on their investment, talking about how you're going to communicate back to them. That's fundraising, communication. The ask is not the biggest part of fundraising. Because the truth is this, you articulate impact and they will ask you, what can I do to help? You communicate your impact the right way, the result and the need that you are addressing, and they will ask you, what can I do to help? So it's not even in the ask. It's in the way that you are able to clarify your product. Right? What is it that the donor and the funder want to know? Very much the same thing that I learned when I wrote grants. They want to know what the need is. They want to know how you are going to address the need. All that's in the grant application. They want to know what your goals are. They want to know what the success looks like. At the end of your program, this is what success looks like. They want to understand your capacity. They want to know how much it's going to cost. What's the cost per person? I learned all of that when I wrote grants. When I was writing grants and I decided to become a fundraiser, all the information that I had learned in the program development, the program design, is what I had to use to articulate to the donors, the funders, the sponsors. It was all relevant information. That's why I tell people that when you hire a grant writer, that's not a bad investment. If you know how to use that narrative to help you put together a plan to raise money from the other streams of revenue. All that's in my guide. All that's in the guide. So when I became the executive director, and I've been the executive director of many organizations, right? So I worked my way up. I've worked in every single job of development, organizational development areas of the nonprofit, not the program side, not the passion side, but the business side. So that when I became the executive director and I had to run the entire organization, I had to understand the entire purview of the business. That's my job as the executive director. That's my job as the CEO, as the president, is to understand now the entire workings of the organization. How do you put together expenses? And then how do you put together revenue projections? How do you plan the campaigns? How do you execute those campaigns? And then what happens after those campaigns to ensure that the revenue is still coming in after those campaigns, right? How do you strategize the spend, the segregation of funds? How do you manage direct costs and indirect costs? How do you project cash flow? Because that's the only way that you can hire people. is that you got to have cash coming in to pay the people, right? There has to be a cash flow in order to be able to pay the people. That's the job of the president. So when I worked my way up into becoming the president, that's when I understood the nonprofit business. I knew the program as a grant writer. I knew the budget and how to meet the budget when I was the fundraiser. But when I became the CEO, I knew the organization. I knew the whole business. I knew expenses for program. I knew the expenses for operations. I had to understand cash flow. I had to understand charts of accounts. I had to understand accounting. I had to understand fundraising on a whole different level. My job was not to do the work anymore. Now, I knew how to do the work because I had done the work, but my job was not to do the work. For many of you, you're doing everything. You're running program, you're writing grants, you're doing the fundraising, and you are winging all of it, right? You're doing the things you like to do. You're not doing the things you don't like to do, but you're doing everything. And you're still not meeting budget. Why? Well, Jen, we need help. We need help, Jen. We need help. The best help that you can get is knowledge. The best help you can get is knowledge. That's your greatest capacity. Your greatest capacity is knowledge. A job was created for me and 5 others. And our job was to help 1,000 organizations nationally and internationally on fundraising. That was our job. We each had a specialty, but we all had to be generalists. We all had to be able to help these organizations raise money. Because without the raising of the money, the operations couldn't exist. The program was not going to be able to exist. They needed clarity. They needed understanding of where does money come from? How do you increase your streams of revenue? Many of you haven't even thought about that. You're just limping along with no concept that money is not your problem. Knowledge is your problem. Jen, I don't know how to fundraise. Jen, I don't know how to put together a budget. Jen, I don't know how to calculate the costs. Jen, I don't know how to write a grant. Jen, I don't know how to get board members. Jen, I don't know. It's all the I don't knows. And it's the what you don't know that you don't know that's got you stuck. It's what you don't know that you don't know. Google will tell you something, right? But it's the I don't know what I don't know about what Google has told me that still has me stuck. I know what Google told me, but there has to be something I still don't know because I can't move past this. It's the you don't know what you don't know. And if you're not open to coaching, if you're not open to asking for help, right? Because some people just can't stand and bring themselves to ask for direction. Get the guide. This guide is 52 pages of everything you need to know about the nonprofit. I'm going to run through it quickly for those of you who are on my podcast and are listening to me. Thank you for joining on Spotify for the podcast. For those of you who are on my YouTube, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Please like and share. Please like and share. All right. So I'm going to tell you quickly what's in the guide. It is 52 pages. And I'm going to share with you what's in it. And then you make your decision. All right. Like I said, I created this guide as a one-shop place where everything you need to know about the nonprofit is in this guide. I have written several books. For those of you who follow me, you all know that I have written books. I have written, my very first book was The Guide to Grant Writing Success, was my very first book. I wrote this book probably now almost 10 years ago. That's a whole grant application, okay? Then I got the book, The Guide to Fundraising Success. This is a whole fundraising plan right here. Then I wrote the book, The Guide to Nonprofit Startup to Sustainability. Then I was a part of a group that was the Blacks in Nonprofits, the grant writing edition. I wrote the piece on the budget. That was my contribution. I'm always talking about the money, honey. And then I've written several other books and workbooks aside. The Nonprofit Startup Guide was written because many of you were constantly on my phone talking about, Jen, how do I start a nonprofit? Jen, I want to start a nonprofit. Jen, we need funding for our nonprofit. Jen, how do I get a grant? Jen, how do I find board members? So all of those questions I put in this guide. All right. For those of you who are on my TikTok, it's in my, if you guys follow me on TikTok, please follow me on TikTok. It is in my profile, in my link tree, is how you can get the guide. If you go to bit.ly, bit.ly/nonprofit startup guide, you can get it there. With the guide, it is a PDF. With the guide, you get a 2-hour nonprofit startup clinic. All right. This clinic details how do you take your idea, the concept of the idea, and how do you turn that into a business? Now, there's a lot of people out here on these streets who will tell you how to start your business, but I'm the only one that's going to tell you how to run it. How to run it. How to run it. How do you run it day to day? Because many of you have started it, but you don't know what to do next. Many of you have started it, but I don't know what to do next, Jen. So let me tell you what's in the guide, okay? Let me tell you what's in the guide. In the guide, there is an introduction about what is the importance of the nonprofit. Why is the nonprofit important as a business? Why is it that the government would give this type of business a tax-exempt status? Many of you don't understand that concept, all right? So why is the nonprofit important? You need to understand that, okay? Because our missions, the work that we do, is important. It's not just your passion. All right. Chapter 2, we talk about the definition of the nonprofit organization. Many of you don't even know what the definition is of this type of business. Then we talk about the different types of nonprofits, the 501c3, C4, C6, C7, blah. We talk about mission, vision. Many of you don't, you have a mission statement, but you're not sure what is the mission statement for? Who's it for? How do I use it? Why is it important? Right? Chapter 2, we talk about legal and regulatory considerations, your incorporation process, your tax-exempt status and IRS requirements, compliance with state regulations, board and board governance, roles and responsibilities. In this section, I talk also about how do you find board members, how do you interview board members, how do you, I even provide a tool of a script to help your board member know how to help you raise money. Many of your board members are not helping you raise money. One, because they don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Fundraising begins with conversation. Fundraising begins with introduction. And many of your board members don't know what to say. You don't know what to say, right? And so in this guide, I've put in here areas of funding that your board members should be able to address when they are out speaking on your behalf. When they're in those meetings, when they're making those introductions, I put in there, these are conversations that they should be prepared to have. And I put the script. Hello, my name is, I'm the board member of, our organization does this. This is our mission, right? And I give probably about a dozen, if not more, examples of those. All they got to do is say it. All they got to do is plug your organization's name and mission in, and that's all they got to say, right? I wrote the script. It's already there, okay? Chapter 3, we talk about planning and strategy. We talk about developing your strategic plan. That's the plan of the president. The plan of the president is to ensure that the priorities of the business are in place. That's your strategic plan, right? We talk about setting goals and objectives of the business. SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. If the goal is to increase the streams of revenue between now and the end of the year, if the goal is to add 2 more board members, if the goal is to expand our, whatever the goal is, you've got to know the plan so that you can position the activities and the funding to achieve that plan. It's not random. It's not random. It's intentional. Running a business is intentional. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Then we talk about program development and evaluation. Why is that important? The program evaluation is what proves and clarifies to your donors and your funders that what they're investing in works. Did you hear what I said? Many of you have started this whole nonprofit and you are not evaluating anything. You're just doing activities. You're just driven by activities and not result. Your product is your result. Many of you are just doing activities and can't prove result. Your program evaluation is what's going to help you get funding more quickly because you're able to show the value of what you do, not the activity of what you do. Okay. Then we talk about risk management, right? Your job as the president has to be able to address the risks of your business. COVID was a risk, right? Your ability to not have a support team, right? Not having board members, that's a huge risk. Not having a budget or an understanding of spending. You've got to be able to manage the risks associated with your business. If you did a business plan, that business plan would tell you about a SWOT analysis. What's SWOT? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Your job as the president is to overcome the weaknesses and the threats. That's your job. If you are not planning, strategizing, aware of how to overcome those weaknesses or turn those threats into opportunities, your business is not going to be thriving. You'll be overcome with weaknesses. And many of your threat is knowledge. Many of you are threatened by knowledge, not money. You're threatened by knowledge. I don't know how. I don't know how to put together a board. I don't know how to find board members. I don't know how to put together a budget. I don't know where money comes from. I don't have streams of revenue. I've never done this work before. Many of your organizations are suffocated because of the threats. You don't know them. You don't know all of them. And they're swallowing you up. All right? Chapter 4, we talk about fundraising basics. We talk about understanding your fundraising methods. I talk about 8 streams of revenue. In this guide, I talk about 10. There's about 14 overall. Okay. I talk about 8. In this guide, I talk about 10. There's about 14 overall. All right. We talk about creating your fundraising plan. Okay. We talk about cultivating relationships with donors and supporters. That means I've even put in here a strategy of how do you get the first gift and then what's the strategy to get the second gift. You got to know the strategy, right? How do you get ongoing donors? Who are regular donors? How do you get monthly donors? That's cultivation. That's cultivation. So in here, I talk about how do you get the first gift? And then what's the strategy to get the second gift? Why is that important? Because you need ongoing donors. You need to be able to retain. Sorry, y'all. You need to be able to retain the donors, the relationship, the connection. That's cultivation. So I explain all of that in the guide. Cultivation, I explain fundraising strategy. I explain how do you do this? Okay. I even put in here some grant writing tips. Chapter 5, we talk about financial management. We talk about budgeting fundamentals. We talk about financial reporting and transparency. We talk about managing cash flow. We talk about fund accounting. We talk about direct costs, indirect costs, how to put together your budget. How do you balance your budget? Right? Charting your accounts. You got to know that. If you got a bookkeeper, great. But you still got to know what they do. When you're pulling your financials for your board reports, your grant funder is going to ask about your budget. And when you receive some forms of funding, they're going to want to know, are you segregating? Are you putting our dollars separate from the other dollars? Segregation of funds. All that's explained in this guide. Okay? Chapter 6, we talk about marketing and communications. We talk about crafting your compelling story, branding and messaging, social media and your online presence. What's on your online presence? Your result, your impact, the need that you're addressing, not your activities, right? Because some of these people out here will have you talking about, the activities that you do. That's not your product. Your product is the result, the problem that you solve. Okay. We're talking about social media, online presence. We're talking about your public relations strategies, right? Chapter 7, we talk about human resources and volunteer management. We talk about hiring staff and contractors, creating volunteer programs, training and retaining volunteers, employee policies and procedures. Chapter 8, we talk about technology and operations. We talk about how do you choose the right technology, data management and security. How do you secure your donors' information? We talk about operational efficiency. We talk about management of software. Okay. Chapter 9, we talk about sustainability and growth, building partners, identifying partners and collaborators. How do you negotiate those relationships, scaling your program and your program impact, creating a culture of innovation, succession planning. What does that mean? That means when you retire, how do you turn this organization over to someone else? Chapter 10, we talk about resources, books, websites, and other services. We talk about professional development opportunities. We talk about networking tips. We talk about we have a glossary of terms that you need to be familiar with in the nonprofit place, okay? And then a word of encouragement to you. This is 52 pages of goodness, okay? This guide has everything you need to know about the nonprofit. It also comes with a 2-hour nonprofit startup clinic video. It comes with me. Everyone who has the guide, I communicate with you regularly. I send you grant writing tips. I invite you to special trainings, right? In the month of June, I'm doing a live Q&A. Everyone who has the guide gets an opportunity to be invited to 4 live Q&As with me throughout the month of June. In July, I'm going to be planning a 5-day grant writing workshop. All right. Why am I doing it with the people who have the guide? Because if you don't understand concepts, then these trainings aren't helping you. You're going to these trainings, you're going in and out of these trainings, and you're still stuck. You took all them notes, you done recorded all this, you done downloaded everything, but you're still stuck. You have to understand the concept. When we're in school, we understand the concept of 2 + 2 is 4. We understand the concept of 2 + 2 is 4. If you don't understand the concept of 2 + 2 is 4, you can't then go to advanced knowledge of how do I get to 4? 12 minus 8 is 4. 20 minus 16 is 4. If you don't understand the concept of what is 4? How do I get to 4? then adding information on top of that is just going to confuse you. And many of you have gone to trainings, you've gone to workshops, you've done all this stuff, and you're like, I still don't understand. Why? Because you never got the initial concept. That's how we learn. That's how we learn, right? In school, we have a book. The book has all the concepts, right? The teacher comes in and starts saying, turn this on page so-and-so. We're going to go over this. They start explaining. They start expounding upon. They start giving examples on this concept. That's what the guide is. The guide is the book of concepts. I come in every day. For those of you guys who follow me on TikTok, for those of you guys who follow me on my other social media pages, I come in and I talk about the concepts. I give examples, I explain. For many of you who have reached out to me and you said, Jen, you have helped me understand this nonprofit process better than I've gone to school, and you have broken it down more efficiently for me than I've ever heard it. You make it so relatable so that I can understand it. That's my life. That's what I do. Okay. Not only did I train 1,000 organizations every year on how to raise money, I teach this. I teach nonprofit management. All right. Business incubators call me and they say, Jen, we need you to come in and talk to our nonprofit leaders. I'm better than SCORE. Nothing wrong with SCORE. But if you don't understand the concept, you're still lost. Okay. I am the nonprofit expert. What makes me the expert is that I worked in the nonprofit every day. I did the jobs of the nonprofit. I became the executive director of many nonprofits, right? And then when I had to train 1,000 in South Africa, Colombia, Haiti, Puerto Rico, the Dominican, Hot Coffee, Mississippi, the Appalachians of Tennessee, the Indian reservations in the Dakotas, it doesn't matter where you are. It does not matter what your cause. I have worked in organizations like yours. There is nothing under the sun that I've not raised money for. And that's why I created my business. I created my business so that nonprofit leaders would have greater opportunity for success with their product, their impact. Why? Because they understand the concept of their business, the concept of their community as their customer or their donors and supporters, how to share and show the value of your product, how to put cost to your business, and how do you generate revenue for it. Our missions matter. This work is important. And in fact, it's priceless. You can't even put a cost on the work that we do. But you as the president, the only way that you are going to be able to level the funding field is knowledge. Those organizations that are raising money, they have departments and people who know how to raise money. Fundraising is a predictable system. But if you don't know how to raise money, money's not your problem. It's knowledge. It's not money. It's knowledge. All right? So listen, I've been on here a lot longer than I wanted to be, but I hope that you have enjoyed or learned from or been entertained by what I've shared. I want to thank you all so very much for being a part of my podcast community. I want to thank you for those of you who have been following me on the YouTube. I want to thank you for those that comment, those that follow, those that share as well. Again, if you all would like to get the Nonprofit Startup Guide, follow me on TikTok. It is in my profile on TikTok. It's under my link tree. All right. On YouTube, we'll put the link tree in the comments as well. My team will do that. For those of you who are on Spotify listening in, if you go to bit.ly/nonprofit startup guide, you can get the guide. All right. I am working on a system to where I will be inviting you all to more learning opportunities. It's important for me not just to put the guide in your hand, it is important for me to explain the concepts, right? I know that that's how we learn. You have to have someone explain. How will they know unless they have a teacher? A book said that. A book said that, right? And so, if you are looking for a coach, if you are looking for a mentor, I would love to be your nonprofit coach. I would love to be a uh, uh, your guide in this space. Okay. I would love to be your guide in this space. And for those of you that say, Jen, I can't afford a coach. Jen, I can't afford that. I don't have any money. Get the guide. The guide is going to save you time. It is going to save you thousands of dollars. And it comes with so many benefits that you can't even pay for. Okay. And so that's where we are. All right, bit.ly, bit.ly / nonprofit startup guide. Okay. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for following. Thank you for commenting. And thank you all for being interested in the subject matter. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye.